everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for week 16 Premier League fixtures. And if we get anything like we just saw in this amazing World Cup, I'm telling you, we are in for some amazing games. I think this week is going to be so unpredictable on Boxing Day because you got so many big sides going to be resting their biggest players because obviously they played in the latter part of the World Cup. So expect some upsets. Can Nottm Forest actually beat Manchester United at Old Trafford? Can Aston Villa beat Liverpool at Villa Park? I'm telling you, I wouldn't be shocked if any of these things happen. Let's see what players continue their tremendous form from the World Cup continuing into this Premier League season. Let's see which players will be raring to go to start the latter half of this season because obviously their country didn't feature in the World Cup like Haaland and Mo Salah. Let's see what's going to happen. So however, before I go this video and give my predictions, you know what I'm going to say. Make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there. And make sure you guys in the comment section give me your own predictions. Who do you think is going to win in week 16 Premier League fixtures, the restart of the Premier League? So the first game I'm going to be predicting is Aston Villa versus Liverpool at Villa Park. And I feel like Liverpool are one of the only real big teams in the Premier League who really didn't get hit by the World Cup with their players playing in the latter half of the tournament. We got players like Mo Salah, who's well rested, Thiago, who didn't get picked, Matip, Robertson, obviously their countries weren't able to represent the World Cup either. We got other players like Gomez, who didn't feature, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Bobby Firmino, who we know started the season on fire, scoring hat-tricks for Liverpool, one of the top goal scorers, resurging to great form like a few years ago. So Liverpool got so many first team players who are finding form at the right time, who are obviously well rested, well rejuvenated, and we know starting lineup to starting lineup are better compared to Aston Villa. So obviously going into this game away from home, and we know Villa Park is a daunting atmosphere to come to, especially under Unai Emery. Liverpool should be considered the favourites going into this game. Also, we saw the last game, although be it pre-season, we saw Liverpool have strength and depth to score goals for fun. Núñez scoring, obviously we know Mo Salah is a danger threat. Liverpool beat AC Milan 4-1 quite comfortably. So look, we got spring in our step. We know we ended the first half of the Premier League season quite well, getting back-to-back wins in the Premier League and the Champions League. So why not Liverpool beat Aston Villa in their first game back? However, like I said, we cannot forget about Aston Villa's strengths. It's not like Steven Gerrard's the manager anymore. They got Unai Emery at their helm, who we know is disciplined, well organised, and the fact it's the first game back since obviously the international break. Unai Emery is going to use the fans, the atmosphere, the late night kickoff vibes to Aston Villa's advantage. They'll be looking to hit Liverpool in the counter-attack with players like Ramsey, who we know is a great ball carrier, and you have players like Watkins and Ings, who we know how to find the back of the net, especially when we know Liverpool love to play a high line. This could work in favour of Aston Villa. And we just know Unai Emery's size. Very stubborn, very hard to beat. They already beat Manchester United 3-1 at home. They got 4 points against Brighton, who have been excelling so well this season so far. So it's going to be a tough victory. However, going in this game, I just favour Liverpool. I just feel like I said, we've got a spring in our step. Our players are well rested. And the players who didn't feature in the World Cup, may be for not being picked, and also obviously their country not being represented, they're going to be raring to go and stamp their mark this season. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory for Liverpool in this tight contest affair. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is a London derby between Brentford and Spurs. And honestly, these are one of the games which I feel like can go either way. I don't really know what's going to happen. But going into this game, it might surprise some people. I feel like Brentford are slightly the favourites. We know Tottenham have great quality going forward, especially with Son and Kane not going that far in the World Cup, so potentially they could be starting, but we can't forget what's happened to them. We know Son especially hasn't had a great year so far in the Premier League, only scoring a hat-trick against Leicester, not scoring that many goals since then. We know Harry Kane missing a devastating penalty against France. Will this linger? Will this haunt his mind? Will it take some time for him to build some rhythm and form going into this season? So maybe Brentford will be let off the hook. But the main reason I feel like it will work in Brentford's favour this game is because we know Brentford at home against the big sides have a very good record, or at least play the opposition very tough. We saw this season beat Manchester United 4-0 at home. We saw last season obviously being Arsenal at the beginning of the season, drawing to Tottenham and Liverpool at home as well. We know it's a tough, daunting atmosphere to go to. The players work extremely hard, cover all blades of grass, and they'll make it very tough for the Tottenham midfielders of Højbjerg and Bentancur to really control the game. But talking about control, will Spurs even want to control this game, especially with the way we know Antonio Conte loves to play a 5-3-2, a 3-4-3, any of those formations which we know Spurs fans and fans in general have been labelling it very negative, which might give Brentford so much confidence going into this game, especially if they keep sustaining attacks. It's just going to bring the Brentford fans to life in this game on Boxing Day, especially with Ivan Toney and Mbeumo. Last saw Ivan Toney on the scene, he scored 2 goals a brace against the English champions at the Etihad. So the Spurs players will be very scared about this, especially since Cristiano Romero will not be featuring because obviously he just won the World Cup and Lloris playing in the final. Spurs backline is going to be completely depleted because we saw when Romero was injured early on in the season, Spurs could not handle this, and we know Lloris, obviously I don't rate him as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I can't think of a suitable replacement for him for Spurs to be able to win this game. So I'm going to go for upset. I think Brentford being at home, Toney and Mbeumo up front, the duo who cause havoc to defences, I think Brentford will win quite comfortably. I'm going to go for a 2-0 home victory for Brentford within this game. So the next game we're predicting is Leeds United versus Manchester City. And we know, of course, Manchester City, the English champions, one of the best teams in Europe, are going to be the undoubtedly favourites against Leeds going into this game at Ellen Road. However, we can't discount Leeds straight away. We know Leeds have been the giant killers this season, beating not only Chelsea 3-0 at home, but ending Liverpool's undefeated streak at home at Anfield this season, winning 2-1 there. They have players who have played extremely well before the break, obviously with Aronson, a great ball carrier, very technical, knows how to create chances, and Somerville, with some people labelling him as the new Raheem Sterling, the way he's bursted on the scene, scoring late winners against teams like Bournemouth and Liverpool at Anfield. They're going to be breathing confidence and they're going to be thinking potentially they can do something to this Manchester City back line. However, that's all the praise I could give Leeds because we know defensively they have been shocking. In their last 4 games, they have conceded 11 goals. They conceded 4 against Tottenham, 3 against Fulham, and you do not want to have a record like this if you're going to be facing one of the best attacking forces in Europe in Manchester City, with players like Erling Haaland, who's going to be raring to go since he was not being able to feature in the World Cup since Norway were not in the competition. Manchester City, like I always say, they are much better when they play angry, when they have a point to prove. So players like Haaland, who was not in the World Cup, he's going to want to announce to the world yet again that he's one of the best strikers in the world. Kevin De Bruyne is going to want to put the past behind him with Belgium with a humiliating knockout defeat in the group stages of the World Cup, accompanied with a Bernardo Silva, Rodri, world-class midfielders. All I can see is Man City is dominating the ball, monopolising it, creating chances and feeding Haaland, threading the ball through an eye of the needle and giving him chances to reassert himself as one of the most dangerous players in this Premier League. So how can I not predict a Manchester City win? I'm going to go for a 3-0 away victory for Manchester City within this game. The next game I'm going to be predicting is Arsenal versus West Ham, another London derby. And let's see which team will be able to have the bragging rights within this fixture. And going into this game, I don't think West Ham could have picked a better time to face Arsenal. We know Arsenal this season have been playing stellar, magnificent, breathtaking football, especially at the Emirates. However, they're not going to be fully at strength because obviously players like Saka's returning from the World Cup who may be a little bit jaded. Also players like Jesus is going to be in the sidelines due to his injury. Also at the back is Saliba going to feature, although obviously he didn't feature in the World Cup for France. Still, will Arteta want to risk it and throw him straight back into the firing line? And these are all pivotal core parts of Arsenal's success this season. And if they're missing these sort of players, do they really have the strength and depth to really replace them? They're not like a Manchester City with a massive healthy squad to rotate. But the biggest talking point for Arsenal is that although they have their great midfield of Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard returning fully fit, obviously no injury worries right there, I just feel like the replacement of Jesus for Nketiah is quite poor. It's not to the standards. He's not going to have the great all-round play, the pressing, the intensity, also the ability to drag players out of positions. So players like Martinelli and Odegaard can have more space. Nketiah is not that sort of striker, and he doesn't have that sort of all-round play. So will this drop Arsenal's performances? Because we know this has been a worry for Arsenal all season. Although only pre-season, we saw against Juventus the drop-off levels compared from Jesus to Nketiah, with Arsenal fans not very happy with his performance. So let's see if Nketiah can win the hearts and the minds of the Arsenal fans, showing that he is worthy to wear that number 14 historic shirt, which so many Arsenal legends have worn in the past. So going into this game, all the pressure is going to be there, because you can have the flair, the magic, the creativity, but if you don't have that goal scorer, it's just not going to bode well, and Arsenal aren't going to win this game. We know Rice and Soucek have been a formidable duo with great chemistry in terms of covering blades of grass, getting all around the pitch, limiting the space that creative midfielders can have, so Odegaard might have a tough game as well. So going into this game, I'm going to be predicting another shocking result. I'm going to go for a 0-0 result within this fixture between the two sides. So the last game I'm going to be predicting is Manchester United versus Nottm Forest, and let's see which team will be able to win with the first game back of the season. And going into this game straight away, Manchester United have to be the favourites. They're at home, they're facing a relegation contender, and we know Nottm Forest have conceded the second most goals in the Premier League so far. And I know Manchester United aren't notoriously famous this season for scoring goals, especially since they're very thin in that department. But against Nottm Forest, surely they should be able to find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. However, there are some warning signs. There are reasons to pose concern, especially with Ten Hag. His mindset right now, thinking that he can't trust his players. He can't trust the ballpark of his squad. We've seen times this season, especially in the Europa League, he does not like to rotate because he doesn't trust his players. We saw him come out the other day in the last few games against Real Betis, and the other fixture, he wasn't very satisfied. He wasn't happy with the team's performance. And if your most important players aren't going to be back for the first part of the season, Manchester United might struggle against Nottm Forest. We know straight away, Martinez, Varane are going to be unlikely to feature, since both of them were in the World Cup final this season. We know obviously Casemiro might be a little bit jaded, tired, maybe even Rashford. But down the middle, all they really have is Anthony Martial. And do I really trust him to be that sort of guy to get the goals for Manchester United to beat Nottingham Forest? I don't, but I feel like overall Manchester United surely have enough quality to beat Nottingham Forest at home. Manchester United have a great record at Old Trafford. I think only losing to Brighton this season at the beginning of the season, but ever since then they have made it a mini fortress where teams have found it quite hard to pick up victories there. So I can't predict anything else but Manchester United win going into this game. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory for Manchester United at Old Trafford against Nottingham Forest.